The Second World War began in 1939. It was the same year that Refugee Blues was also published. But years before that, Hitler and the Nazi Party had begun the systematic extermination of Jews. They were identified, labeled, their houses were looted, and orders were passed to the effect that Jews no longer had any human rights. If you are supporting a Jew, you are a German, and then you are supporting a Jew, then you're also equally culpable and will be punished. Similar systems are still practiced even to this day. Not by Hitler, not by Stalin or Mussolini, but by ordinary people, just like you or me. Hitler or Stalin did not directly go about killing people on such a large scale. It was done by common people, sometimes soldiers or the local party members were part of these mass extermination programs of eliminating dissenters, people who did not agree with them, kill them off. That was the whole plan. The Jews were targeted in Germany and the political opponents were targeted by Stalin in Russia. Hitler had concentration camps, Stalin had gulags. Both were responsible for deaths of millions of people. But it is the role played by the people in the lowest of ranks that we must think about. After the Nazi regime ended, these party members or soldiers were asked how they could participate in such inhuman tasks. Most of them replied that they were just following orders. For example, somebody tells you, your task is to turn on a switch when we instruct you. Yes, 1,000 people will suffocate to death because of the poisonous gases. But do not worry about that. You are paid to just turn on the switch. Follow the instruction. Out of fear or ignorance, many of us follow the herd. We might console ourselves saying that we are after all following orders. We don't need to feel guilty about what is happening to these people. So many of the people unknowingly or knowingly took part in this massive extermination program that Hitler had designed. If you're not a supporter of a political party or a religion, you might even be denied the basic rights. It might be a denial of access to your house by blocking the roads or interfering with local administration and then denying people who do not support your political views from getting rations, from getting proper water supply or power supply. Humans have always shown this group mentality to single out people and ostracize certain others. After all, we are just following orders. I'm not talking about something happening in a far off place. This can happen near you, in your country, in your state, in your district, in your panchayat, in your college, or even in your classroom. Why send people to concentration camps or gulags when you can create hell by making them stay in their own homes? Always be careful when someone tells you to hate or to single out someone. It might be a religious group or a political one. It is ironic that when humans form groups or collectives which claim to be neutral or which claim to take a stand against intolerance, change within a few seconds or few months, and then turn out to be intolerant themselves. We end up doing the same thing we had originally started to oppose. We might have a rush of blood and feel all powerful when we say, I can't stand intolerance. The question we must ask ourselves, can we find a way to communicate amidst this intolerance? Haters of haters are also haters. What is the purpose of shouting for freedom of speech when you deny the same for others? We are seeing fascist groups calling each other fascists. The victims of all such propaganda will continue to suffer, unable to distinguish between the fascist groups. The color of their flags might change, but essentially, when you preach hatred, there is no freedom of thought, speech, or expression. It is in this context that we must understand the famous words of the prominent Lutheran pastor from Germany, Martin Niemöller. He was an outspoken public critic of Adolf Hitler and spent the last 7 years of Nazi rule in concentration camps. He is perhaps best remembered for his post-war words. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. These lines are used by many to give the message of standing guard against fascism. I would say this has been misused by many. Years have passed. Things are not always black and white. Our vocabulary has also evolved accordingly. See how these lines transform when we replace socialist, trade unionist, Jews with feminists, or some people call them feminicis. You target these groups. Then the gays or the homosexuals, lesbians, or any of the marginalized groups, replace these groups with the original terms used by the speaker. You can even try the names of various caste groups or religious groups who are being oppressed. In a different context, you can try the names of your neighbors. When something happens to your neighbor, do you speak out? Or even the students from your own class. Do you see this happening around you? We see how certain animals mimic other animals to save themselves or get food. In movies, we see alien creatures cloning themselves as humans and infiltrating our communities. The same applies for fascism. How can we be sure that the same lines are not used by a fascist group to propagate his or her or their self-interest? We cannot call a liar an honest person just because he exposes other liars. After all, a liar is a liar. When we allow ourselves to be played as mere puppets, we submit to fascism. When we take a stand and believe with utmost conviction that our perspective is the right one, we are on the verge of becoming a fascist. We may be right, but that does not mean we get to shut out the voices of others. When we turn a blind eye or stop listening to the voices in front of us, or silently support the suppression of voices with which we do not agree, we become fascists. We are learning literature to gain this sight. The literary examples that we are learning in our texts are meant to equip us with the tools we need to get a better understanding of what happens around us, and most importantly, inside us.